Okay, so now I want to add some value to this character. I'm going to start first by dropping the brightness and contrast. See if this gives me the look I want. So I want there to be pretty, medium gray, basically. Something like that. Because, white's going to be very rarely used, if ever. It actually darkens up the lines, which I kind of like that. So now, let's lock this again. We're going to take the G pen. I'm going to set that to multiply. Remember, if you don't have this blending mode here, you can simply go into here, find your blending mode under ink, put the little eye next to it, and it toggles it on and off over here. So just like that, we can pick some of the darker tones now. Well, that's a little too dark. So you gotta picture that multiply is actually darkening the color underneath. Now the only thing is you have to fill the entire area at once when working with multiply, because if you do a second pass over top, it'll darken it again. So you have to either isolate the whole area, or what I like to do is just kind of draw a perimeter shape like this, and then fill it all in. So it's just one way to do that. And I can bunt up edges. So say I need to get the hand here. It's not a big deal if the overlap is a little bit of a darker, because I can always blend that back. So segmentation kind of, it's pretty easy to fill that in and fix it. So a little darker on the bottom of the hand. I'll come back and do that. Okay, so yeah, things like the boots, I want those to be a bit darker. Now for here, I'll just go ahead and create a quick selection. It's easier to get through all these little points by just kind of going back and forth like this. Now I'm regretting the grass shape there. Not a big deal. And then just fill that in. Command D to deselect. Repeat that with the other leg. And we got kind of a zigzag pattern right here, so just kind of emulate that. Carry down through and around the foot. This will be a little bit trickier, so I just got to kind of hold my hand steady and go around these as best as possible. That one's pretty bad. And probably just fix that one, but it's not really that big of a deal. But remember, you can hold Shift to add, Alt to subtract. So I can just go like this. Oh, forgive me, that would be Shift. I always get it confused. And I can cut back into this shape. Just like that. Yeah, I wonder if flood fill works with the multiply. No, it doesn't. Just had to try it, folks. That's how you learn. Experimentation. Okay, so there's the boots. Command D to deselect. So I obviously don't want everything to be this darker tone, but I'm just trying to get enough of these things in here where it, it gives some contrast to the character. Some highs and lows, some more interesting kind of ranges of the value, which in turn will make him look more dynamic. So I think even that chest plate I want to be a darker kind of metal, so I'm going to do that too. So again, I'll just take this brush and scale it down just a little bit with the bracket keys. I'll try to trace out the shape, and it doesn't have to be perfect, so don't feel like you've got to get this just right. I mean, there's still a lot of edit that's going to go on as we do this, but you can use the edges like that. Remember, this is a chest plate type material, so it's going to segment away from the arm there. Now, another way to do this is to really just select each one of these areas, cut and paste. That is nice for editing and going back and forth and back and forth. So it depends on how you paint. The reason I'm showing you this way is because this is actually a lot faster once you get used to it. But it does take some practice to build confidence with it. So just be aware of that. If you want to make this easier because you do a lot of editing, you can always go back and forth. I'm just blending some of the inconsistencies here. You can actually crop each one of these areas by generating selections first. Okay, so there's that one value. Actually, you know what? I think I want some of the details in this and possibly even the edging to be the darker value. Something like that. Okay, and actually the old ball and chain. So I could have just colored that in with the boot and saved myself some trouble there, but decisions have been made. So just like that. And I think that's about it. Maybe this part. And the handle, because I'm picturing this being a darker wood. So I'm just really picturing areas or grabbing areas that are going to be darker in the design. Okay, and this this can be changed even after we get into it, but you'll see it just really helps to start making this character read a bit more dimensionally. So value is insanely important for that. I think even the hair being dark will be cool. Okay, so there's our first value. Let's pick something lighter now. And let's see if that's too dark for the arm. Maybe a little lighter. Let's go with the material here. And it kind of depends on the style you're after. I see a lot of artists will do something like this and they'll just stop. It's definitely faster. But you can also add in some blending and some digital paint work with this and make it look, pretty. You can go all the way to hyper realistic if you want, but it just depends again on what your needs are, what your client's needs are, things like that. You could probably be a little bit messier too. So let's say the skin tone will be the lighter tone, but we can also think about shadows of plane changes. So for instance, underneath the knees, under the muscle groups, something like that, just to make it a bit more interesting. Again, plane change of the, maybe the knuckles here, in between the fingers, so on and so forth. Maybe there's a little bit of a shadow on the inside of the arm here. I think maybe the axe head, something like that. Okay, and let's say this piece right here. So once we have the bulk of this value shift in place, we can then start to give it a little bit more gradation. You can also just do this where you kind of block in over an area. I want those studs that are going to be on the top of this, or I want those to be a bit different, but I'm just going to kind of shoot past that. And I'm also going to start adding little bits of texture. So notice that I can add this in with this lighter brush, but because it's set to multiply, it's still giving me a nice dark shadow. I'm just going to go ahead and jump in there and do a little bit of that. Start to figure out a little bit of the light source. So the spherical object here is a great way to define that immediate light source. You get the chest here, which obviously I've kind of already defined that a little bit with the line work. So try to give myself little notes even in the sketch to where the shadow is going to go, things like that. Under the neck here, inside the face, under the nose, side of the cheeks, side of the helmet, so on and so forth. And so now what we can do, we can even darken just this one side right here. So yeah, so now it's starting to come together a little bit. We're going to keep picking at this and, detailing it even further. So let's go ahead and wrap up here, head over to the next lesson, and continue to refine our values.